Hey everybody, and welcome back. Alright, so still white outside, still cold, but it's supposed to get mild and wet, which can be a problem here because then, you know, the snow melts a bit, but every night it freezes hard. It makes things worse. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Okay, had quite a lot of comments last week about gearbox and things, so we're going to spend a little bit of time on that before we get into any work. Main thing, of course, is I completely forgot it was Christmas. You could ask, how can you forget it's Christmas? But I did, which is why I sort of said Merry Christmas in the little text bit on the video. So as you're watching this, it is Christmas Day, so a real Merry Christmas to you. And because it was at the weekend and all the rest of it, I didn't, or I'm not going to be in the workshop very much because I've got stuff to do, and probably the same for New Year's weekend. But we'll film what we did during the week, and if it's only 20 minutes, it's only 20 minutes. If it's only 10, it's only 10. Anyway, well, what else has happened? Okay, nothing other than that. So I'll show you some stuff about this gearbox and explain some things, and actually before we do that I will show you something else, because I have been busy flipping in and out. I'm still waiting for those rocker blocks, so I can't finish the engine off, because as you remember I've got to get everything done at the top end before I put it in the frame. So speaking of the frame, let me show you something. Right, well, so I did the paint. As I mentioned, I was going to do it in the original Enfield Trials replica colour, so I've done that. And, you know, I don't think I have ever done a paint job where when it gets to the end and I'm getting things sorted and laid out, I don't pick the piece up and I've missed. Look at that. That's the only bit out of all this I didn't quite catch. And of course it's always right at the front. It couldn't be underneath. So I'll have to mix up paint and everything and redo that piece, which is a bummer, as they say. Alright, let's go and look at this gearbox. Alright, so our gearbox and its problems and mysteries. Right, first of all, solved a mystery of why this was 1830 and so on. It says on this gearbox somewhere, Constellation, where is it? There it is, look. 5861 Constellation, medium minor, scissor clutch. So I went into the book and I looked at 61, 60, 59, because the original, because the bullet engine is 59. And as I mentioned, all the parts were exactly the same for both gearboxes. But when I looked at 58, it was 1830, not 1525. The only thing I can think of is that the ratios are the same. The internal ratios are identical. I calculated them. The only thing I can think of is that when they brought the Constellation out, which was sort of the sports, I mean they had the Super Meteor, which was 700, but the Constellation had twin carbs, etc. They decided they wanted a beefier gearbox, so they changed the number of pinion teeth, kept the ratios the same, but as we saw, made the teeth bigger. That's the only reason I can think of. Anyway, so that solved that mystery of why they were suddenly different. If I'd have gone back 1 year further in my original researches, I would have found that they were different. Now, that's why these, of course, don't mesh properly. If this was 15 and I was changing it for 14, then they would, what, 99 point something percent mesh correctly. And again, I checked what it says for the change in internal ratios, and that's what it's done. So now, comments. I had a lot of comments. And I have to say this, to be honest, to everybody. Sometimes I get comments, and if I was in a bad mood, I would just answer and say, you know, did you actually watch the video? Because I get comments that, you know, I've had people who've given comments about something and then they've added a second comment and said, whoops, I should have waited a bit longer, you answered the question. But sometimes I just get comments and I think, I went all through that. Anyway, a couple of people mentioned that to change the gears, they should have come in pairs. And that to change these 3 ratios, I should have had sort of 3 pairs. This is actually the clever thing that they've done. They must have done some research to make sure they could change them. But by changing this gear here and this gear here, they've maintained the 1-to-1 ratio for 4th. But because of the convoluted ways the inputs come to the and go through this one and then go back out, 1st, 2nd, 3rd have changed, but 4th hasn't. Alright? So if I only had changed those 2, only 1st gear would have changed its internal ratio. Well, 4th gear would have also, because 4th gear wouldn't be 1-to-1 anymore, because you wouldn't have the 13 to 18, 30 to 18. So as I said, that's where they were quite clever. Changing just those kept 4th gear 1-to-1 ratio, but it changed all the other 3. Okay? So I of course am now cursing because particularly the rear sprocket, I bought that a certain size to get my ratios the way I want. Now for all the trials bikes I've built, because they've basically all used road going ratios except for the B25 that I built for the chap in the UK in Lancashire, I actually chased round a number of suppliers, found one pinion here, one pinion there, and managed to get the B40 War Department low ratio box to put in that. Other than that, I've always had to use the road going ratios, which tends to mean that 1st is fine, 2nd is a bit like this, but basically you ride everything in 1st. So I always aim for an overall engine to back wheel ratio of 40-to-1. So I set to and did lots of calculations and worked out the overall ratios for this engine. Because you remember I changed the sprocket on the crankshaft, sprocket on the gearbox, and the sprocket on the rear wheel. And it turns out, as I say, I aim for 40-to-1 for 1st. The way I have it now, I'm going to get 39.5 for 1st gear. So I continued through and worked them all out, and also I got the ones for the B25 that I built. And 1st gear in the Enfield is going to be 39.5. The B25 it was 38.26. So I've actually got a low ratio. And then 2nd, 3rd, 4th they go, I'll do Enfield first, 25.6, 23.68, 18.4, 17.9, 14.1, 14.4. So I've got ratios that are lower than the B25, and the B25 ones work out perfectly. So I'm not in the least worried now about this. I'll just put this back as it is. Now what I've actually done is, while I was on Hitchcock's website looking at part books and all the rest of it, oh by the way, the 58 Bullet has the 1830, so as I say, they changed it in 59 for some reason. I noticed that they had a complete lay shaft with gears and main shaft with gears for a Bullet, the 1525 ones, so I ordered them because I thought to myself, there's something wrong with the gearbox in the standard bike, so I'm going to maybe have to buy some bits. So I thought, seeing as I've got these, I'll buy the 2 shafts and gears, and when we look at that gearbox, I'll just take the Pashley internals out, put the correct 4-speed ones in with the lower gears. So just to let you know when we get round to that, that's what I'm going to do there. So that's my gearbox sorted. All I've got to do now is clean it all out. So we're going to, well, I am going to change the bearings at the back. The back one is a 6206, so I can get a shielded one, a sealed bearing, the 2RS, and the one at the front, I'm going to change this one as well. This stuff, funnily enough, is a 5 PBS or something, and I'm having difficulty. Well, I found some people that have them, but I hate having to get things from 2 or 3 different suppliers. Alright, I've waffled on enough, and I'm not going to be out here a lot during this week. So let's get on. Actually, I've got to clean this and various other things, and we'll see about doing the bearings, the main bearings, and putting the crankcases together. Right, so here we are. Got this cleaned up. I've put the no, I haven't. Where is it? The oven's warming up, so that will go in first, then that will go in, and I've made a drift to knock it in with. I'm putting that there because I don't want to forget it. Then that's the one that goes on the outside. Then we're going to put these in as well, and finally, of course, we have a new race and new rollers. So let's get this warmed up. So I hope this is going to be hot enough, because I couldn't fit it in and get the door closed on this other little oven I bought, and I can't find any big thick gloves, so oh, come on. I'm going to put these in first. Right. Ow, 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 ow. Oh, I've done my gloves. And we're going to put them there. That. Over like that. Must have fallen over, excuse me. There we go. Right, so as I say, that little one goes in first. Oh. Oh, it's tight. Press that in, I think. Going in straight. Try and warm this up a bit more, which probably means those things will fall out. Alright, we're going to try again. It's been in a long time now, and I turned the heat up a bit. Smoke coming. Keep your fingers crossed. There it goes. That's it tight. And I've noticed, I can see the backs of those camshaft things. There we go. All set. We'll leave that cool down. Or should I tell you what we'll do? We'll try doing the gearbox one as well. I'll at least get it out as soon as the oven's on and hot. That one actually fits right in. Right, I haven't had this one in as long because I can actually close the door, and as I said, the oven was already hot. So let's get that out. Whoa! See how hot it was in there? A little bit of solvent on this. Good job I did a firefighting course at Phillips Petroleum. It was a really good one actually. They even set an overflowing road tanker on fire. Oh, that is hot. And I have another drift for that. You can hear the difference in the sound because it's moving. Alright. Now that's knocked everything out. There's the bearing. There is the oil seal, which actually is just a rubber thing. And then there is that. Now what we're going to do when we're going to put a seal bearing in there, but I'm going to put that oil seal back in because of course it's exactly the right spacing for the bearing. So very good. You had a little bit of excitement there. Actually, I had that happen to me on top of a tank once. We used to store sulfuric acid. And strangely enough, the sulfuric acid tank, which was mild steel, was not coated or lined in any way. Because as long as you keep sulfuric acid above a certain concentration, it actually doesn't attack the steel. So we used to keep like 90 something percent sulfuric acid, and then every so many trucks that we discharged, we'd put a truck of oleum in, which is like a super saturated sulfuric acid. And I was up there taking a depth on it, which you do with an actual stainless steel tape with a bob weight on, and laid next to the hatch was a cloth I used for cleaning things off, and that had solvent on it because we stored xylene and benzene and all sorts of things. And as I pulled the tape out, a couple of bits of sulfuric acid landed on that, and it just turned to charcoal and burst into flames. Anyway, there you go. Right, so that's it for today. The rocker blocks came, so all I've got to do for that now is wait for some thin BSC, quarter-inch BSC nuts. Okay, right, see you tomorrow. Just watch that last bit of video and you didn't see the excitement actually, but when I went in with this, you can see it there, it caught fire. A couple of places. So it was flames, I actually had to put it out. So anyway, if you were wondering what I was talking about, that's what it was. Right, so there's all the studs back in, and I also made a little cover for that. So now we put the rollers into the cage. You know what? Today is Wednesday, the 21st. Last day I'll be in the workshop. And I think it was Sunday night, I put in a little order with Hitchcock's. Oh, look at that. When do you ever get anything that works right? Bugger it. I'm going to do these off camera because there's one that doesn't go in right, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of dressing up. What I was going to say was, Hitchcock's sorted my order out, sent it on Monday. This morning, so it's only Wednesday, I got a thing from DHL to say it was at the Rochester, New York depot. So that's 2.5 hours drive away. Estimated delivery Thursday the 28th. 2 days to get it from the UK, a week to drive it down from there. So let me do this. Right, well, there was only the one that needed dressing up. So let's see if we can put this in here. Let's put a bit of oil on that and see what that's like. Load of buff. Let me take a roller out so I can. There we go. All right. So that's that in there. Now, of course, big question, keep your fingers crossed and all that. Does the crank go in? Whoop, nearly forgot. Thrust washer that goes on there. Well, very good. Well, I'm happy about that. Okay, let me get some gasket cement on there and we'll put the other side on. Alright, let's dry it out a little till it's tacky. Really want that to fall off there. Tell you what, that's. There we go. Oh, come on. Now he's got on one of the studs to screw with. I stood before I should have. Oh, it's going to be one of those days, I can tell. See, there's always that little come on. Yeah. I've put a couple of clamps on to pull this in. Unless I can rig up a little puller. Hang on, let me go and look at that. I don't remember the other one going on this difficult or this hard. Well, I pulled it together and of course it won't turn. And the mounting holes here are not the same. There's actually a ring that goes on. Well, I suppose I could try putting the chain case on, but those mounting holes don't line up with that, so let me fiddle on. Alright, so I've got this side off. I thought I'd try measuring from here where the bearing's going to touch to the case side, and then do the same to the other side to see if I have enough space in there. And I can't get two measurements the same, so I don't know if this is kinked or what. So anyway, what I have done is I put some slots in my puller thing. So let's pull the crank right out of there. Okay, this is in here. It's definitely in as far as it'll go. I've checked everything again, and I mean it's a new bearing, but that's going round fine, and that is in completely. So got my little doodad which I got the other day at that place. I got some stuff. See, I always find measuring down here really difficult. I don't know why. So what I'm going to do is set this so it's just touching that surface, which it is there. Try it round this side. Yep, just touching. And we're going to put it in there. Now this is actually a few thou lower to the and that is below there. So it's below this. So the distance from there to there is less than the distance from there to down there. So this should go on without any problem. Now I'm not going to prat around again trying to put it on with difficulty. I'm going to make a piece to pull it on. Alright. I might squeeze, well it depends on what Linda needs me to do, but I might be able to squeeze in a little bit more in the workshop. So until then, we'll see ya. Right, I managed to sneak away from all things Christmassy while Linda's back's turned. And I came out here to have a little look at this. So I thought, okay, let's make a thing to actually pull the case down onto there. Now, unlike the one that pulls where you just keep winding it in, you're going to use this thread here, right? As you tighten that down, the thing's going to push the case onto the crank, or pull the crank into the case, really. That's why you're not sort of bashing it. That's why they're the preferable way to do it. But of course it means you've only got this much movement each time. So if you make one to fit a nut on, you'll go down sort of 1/4 of an inch and then you come to a stop. So what I've done is I have made a thing that comes in sets, and of course I screwed up with it. That bit goes on the bottom and it's big enough for various sizes. Then this bit goes on the top, and I shouldn't have made it with a big hole in. I should have made it with that size hole in, but those size holes are going to be different. Fortunately, I've got a perfect washer for there. So we pop that on there like that, pop that on there like that, turn it down. When it gets to the bottom, we take it off. We pop, oh, these might have to be made slightly. Pop that on. Pop that on, and of course that'll have moved down. Tighten it down a bit more. Then you put that one on, and you put that one on, and then if need be, you put that one on. So I now have the tool that I should have made for myself 20 years ago. Alright, so the next problem is, of course, I discovered, I've searched everywhere, I don't have the nut for there. And I couldn't understand why. So last night, I was looking at part books again, and I found out why. And it explained sort of a mystery. When I was looking, I found that I have two of the nuts with the worm drive that goes on the timing side. That's the worm drive for the oil pump. Well, when I was looking in the parts book last night, the parts book for the crank is, the page is really confusing. But I found what it said was the crankshaft nut, and it said drive and timing side. So that's why I couldn't understand why I bought two of them. But I'll have bought two because it said that it was the same one for both. And I used that part number, and it's actually the part number for the worm drive. So what I'm going to do is steal the one off the other Enfield, because I've just got to take the cover off the chain case. So let me go and grab that and put some more gasket sealant on, and we'll see about pulling that on, see if it's right this time. Oh, by the way, I put this in the press and checked to make sure the bearing was right in. I think it did feel it go a fraction, and you know, all we need is millimeters, is thousandths of an inch to make this bind. So let me get sorted. Alright, let's give this a try. So that's going to go on there. So first off, we don't actually need any spacers in. Actually, I was just thinking, this is the sort of coarse BSC thread, the 20, and BSC is 60-degree angle for the threads. I could make one of these. Come on, you can come off easier than that. Okay, first one goes on. You're wondering why I didn't just make them all so I could add the next one and the next one. It's because I wanted them to, this lip thing to hold them. See if that was actually part of the top. I only made them in inch longer increments. Might be able to get away with. threads there. I have to admit that's a lot easier than bumping and thumping it and carrying on. I might need to use a couple of these because I made the spacing pieces out of 1.5 inch tubing, 1/8 inch wall, and I don't have any more of that left. And if that one will go straight on. Yeah. I have to do a mix and match sort of thing for this yet. I think I'll just continue with this and bring you back when I'm close to the end, and we'll see if the crank turns. Alright people, it's all the way on, all the bolts in except a couple at the front, but we do have these two in the top, and there's the 1/4 inch ones that go underneath all around the back, everywhere like that. So yesterday, of course, was just, as they say, these things are sent to try us. Alright, I can now have a happier Christmas, or a merrier Christmas, than I was going to have if I didn't get that together. Now let me see if I can get into picture and give you a nice grin. Here I am. Alright, so that's as much as I can do. You go off, you stay safe, and you enjoy your Christmas. Bye now.